It's Casting Crowns, Scars in Heaven. You're on Vision Christian Radio. It's Neil with you, the Wednesday edition of 2020, and a conversation shortly I'll invite you to join in on, and perhaps it's a conversation you've never heard anything like this before. My suspicion is that we're taking things just a little deeper. We're going to be diving into the deep end. We're going to be exploring some things today perhaps none of us has ever really even thought about when it comes to the issue of money. Money is one of the most discussed topics in our daily life, and we talk about it a lot here on 2020. Our understanding of money and our relationship with it can influence our quality of life. Well, as Christians, we're more acutely aware of some of the deeper aspects of how we relate to money because we start to appreciate that we can either love it, we can hate it, or we can fear it. We're challenged every day with spending, investments, negotiations, saving, budgeting, and giving. We also have a private way of dealing with money, and we carefully guard our way. Well, a conversation today asking ourselves some deeper questions about our relationship with money. And wonderful to welcome back special guest, Dr. Natanael Costea. He's a pastor, a strategist, a futurist, and an emotional intelligence coach. He's the founding director of Apostolic Churches Alliance and the principal of the Australian School of Ministry. He leads Menorah Church in Perth. Natanael Costea, a special welcome along to 2020.
Really glad to be here, Neil.
Hey, Natanael, we've got a little bit of a title for our conversation today. And I know when we were preparing this, we were saying, what shall we talk about if we're discussing our relationship with money? We came up with the idea that we could talk about a love affair with money. I wonder what your thoughts are. Is that too long a stretch? Is this closer to reality than we might think? What are your thoughts about a love affair with money?
Well, we're entrenched in the money issue every single day. From the moment we wake up throughout the day, we are constantly thinking, we are working, we are trying to spend or not to spend, to invest, not to invest. We make decisions about money. We're trying to make money go a long way if possible. And then possibly until we go to bed at night, there's another thought, another discussion, and with our loved one. During the day, business choices, employees, employers, customers, everything is entrenched in money. So naturally, we are bombarded and influenced and affected, and we can't really escape it. Now, is it a love affair or is it a necessity? Well, depends where you are on the spectrum. It can start as a need to have money for the bare necessities, but it can grow from there to become an obsession, and where money can become a gripping force on our lives. Yes, if it does get to that love affair, which is extremely damaging, it can destroy us, it can destroy the loved ones around us, and it can have massive negative ripple effects in our lives. So it is at the heart of our lives, unfortunately, and managing this is vital.
I like your description of how that love can become an obsession, because a lot of Christian listeners will appreciate that scripture that says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And so perhaps there is a shallow love, which might be an appreciation, even a respect for the fact that we are in charge in a stewardship way of our finances. But then if we go outside of those boundaries that God sets for us and it becomes an obsession, it is potentially the root of all kinds of evil. So a good way to talk about the love of money. But we've also got this sort of hatred of money. Some people, they just are not money people. They say, I'm not wired that way. I hate dealing with money. I'm not the one who gets to pay the bills, and I get challenged with that. And it might be the reason why we've never accumulated any wealth and had a strategy ourselves, because we haven't had an appreciation at all for it. What are your thoughts for this idea of loving it or hating it or fearing it?
Well, at the heart, even of the Christian life, as you mentioned, we have to deal with money, because how you deal with money affects everything. It affects how you run your family, your children, your wife, your husband, even your faith in God. Now, Jesus was very clear on this. He said, you can't serve two masters, Luke 16:13. For either you will hate one and love the other, you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. That's the NLT translation. It's interesting that it says you cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Unfortunately, money is a ruler. And we are told to rule that, which is often very, very difficult. It is a love-hate relationship. You can't love money and love the kingdom. It's just they're opposites, unfortunately. And this is happening, Neil, not because money is so bad. It's because money is spiritual. Money is not physical. And for many years, we thought that money, or in the Western society, we are taught that money is a material thing, but it's spiritual. And, the old Jewish Bible, the first books of the Bible, the Torah, speaks about how the money is a spiritual aspect. And unless we understand that, we won't really have a healthy understanding of how it can enslave us. So I can expand on that.
We'll do that because sometimes we think of money, and I know that there'll be some listeners who think of cash in our hands. I like the feel of the cash as it's, in between my fingertips. It's money. Others are so much into our modern digital society that we rarely touch cash anymore. It's digital, and we do cash transfers. We don't even touch the money. It just moves through the ether in a digital way. But you've brought to us a different dimension here, a spiritual dimension, and this thought that money is spiritual. Let's talk about that some more for a moment, because the spirituality of money is something we don't often think of.
That's right. Well, even as a tangible thing, money doesn't really exist. I mean, there is a plastic, used to be a form of paper, then there's also metal coins, and now a lot of it is digital. Money is a spiritual currency as such, because the value of money changes. One decision is made, let's say in Sydney today, one announcement by the government, and something that was worth $20 million becomes worth nothing. It just disappears. But also on the positive, money is made. You buy a product, you upsell it, somebody else buys it, thinks it's a bargain, they do something with it. I'll give you an example. We bought a truck in our company. We bought a truck from the auctions. Now, the company who sold the truck was happy to sell it and to make money on it, or whatever the value was on that, to dispose of it. Now, for us was an element of risk because we couldn't see the truck. We bought it just online. So we took that risk. So let's say we paid $10,000 for the truck. It's different values, but just to help us out, right? We bought the truck, we took the risk, and then we advertised the truck to sell because it didn't suit our purpose. We needed a high-ab, and it wasn't suitable. It was too high for us, for our company. Somebody came to buy the truck, to use it as a courier truck. Now, let's say we sold it for $20,000. Let's say we bought it for $10,000, we sold it for $20,000. We made money on that. Now, the guy who bought the truck for us was extremely happy because now he can also operate as a truck courier and make money with that. So that money became a blessing to him as well. So everybody is making money, but there's no real money anywhere as such. So do you see how it's all transferred? But the beauty of this is very godly. Why? because the company who sold the truck to us made money. They were happy. They got money. The auction house made money. We made money. The gentleman who bought the truck from us uses it to deliver goods to people, making money. The courier company makes money. The people who receive the parcels or the pallets also, they receive a service. And God is blessing everybody. You see, money is made out of almost nothing. So this is how spiritual it is. It just grows, but it also falls. Now, if we think that we can hold on to anything in life, we are misled, because everything devalues. The actual money devalues. So our attachment to money is dangerous, because it's a spiritual attachment to something that is not real in real terms, but it's really in our spiritual understanding of it, in our spiritual connection. I hope this is not too deep in a sense that it doesn't make sense. But let me tell you the blessing. The blessing of all of this is that God made this allowance for us for money, so everybody prospers. Everybody is blessed by it, when the purpose of money is to bless another human being. So God is blessing Natanael, and he's blessing Neil. We are both his children. If I serve Neil, Neil pays me. I get rewarded for my service to Neil. But my service to humanity is the key to this. And as I serve it with the product and services that I provide, I am rewarded with this thing called money. But they're really, let's say, appreciation certificates or reward certificates. So the more I commit to serving God's creation, the more rewards I get, the more appreciation dockets I get, and then I can use these appreciation dockets to provide for my family. So let's not even talk about them being called money. Let's talk about them being, appreciation dockets or something.
So
yeah.
So when we're into, say, Matthew chapter 6, and we're thinking about the lilies of the field and the birds of the air, and God who is able to clothe the birds and the lilies almost beyond our imagination, but he is the one who is actually doing that. So difficult sometimes getting our head around that, because if you go to the corner store, you still might need some cash in hand. But to appreciate money and a spiritual dimension and forming this emotional, and let's come back to that word you mentioned a little earlier, an obsessive connection with money. Does that align, do you think, Natanael, with the biblical idea of idolatry, that there might be something that, like an eclipse, comes in between us and God?
Absolutely. We say it's my money. Nobody can touch my money. This is my hard-earned dollar. I work for 40, 50 hours this week. I choose what I do with this. And God has entrusted us that stewardship, that administration. We are responsible with everything that we do. But, in Proverbs, there's a deep wisdom that I'd like to read, Proverbs 3. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, verse 5. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. This is beautiful. Don't be impressed with your own wisdom. Instead, fear the Lord and turn away from evil. Then you will have healing for your body and strength for your bones. Listen to this now, verse 9. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part or first fruits of everything you produce. Then he will fill your barns with grain, and your barrels will overflow with good wine. So God owns everything. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all its people belong to him. God said, the world is mine and all it contains. We just got to understand that even though we make the money and we're emotionally attached to it, it comes from God. You'll say, Nathaniel, but I sweated for 50 hours last week. Yes, But your ability to get a job, your health, everything comes from God. Just as he dresses the lilies, he gives you the ability to work, to have the wisdom, to connect the dots and perform the work that you do. Everything belongs to him. Everything you own comes from him. So the connection, the emotional connection should be to the giver, not to the gift, to the provider, not to the provision. Our connection is like my kid being happy with the ice cream, but not being happy with me buying him the ice cream. It would hurt me for him to have an emotional connection with the ice cream and not an emotional connection with the father who buys him the $5 coin.
We're going to continue our conversation in just a few moments, and I want to invite listeners to join into our conversation. Our talkback line open on 1-800-316-316. Perhaps we're into a dimension we've not really explored enough before. This thought of there being a love affair that we might have with money. And I know you can hear there's tremendous wisdom in our special guest, Dr. Natanael Costea, who's a pastor, a strategist, a futurist, and an emotional intelligence coach. He leads the Menorah Church in Perth. And we're coming back in just a few moments to continue our conversation. Talkback line open, 1-800-316-316. Our talkback line open on 1-800-316-316. We're talking about our love affair with money. Dr. Natanael Costea is our guest. He leads the Menorah Church in Perth. Natanael, obviously there will be different perspectives that people will have about money, and perhaps we'll take some calls from listeners who might like to offer their own perspective as we go. But when we have an attitude to our money, it could be a good attitude or it could be a bad attitude, and that's going to lead us either to manage it well or to mismanage that money. So if we're talking relationship that needs to be managed and controlled, how do you like to approach that?
Well, the first job God gave to Adam was to work the garden. He was going to have dominion over the garden and invest and work there. So we are to operate in what God has called us to do. We have a responsibility to multiply everything that comes to us. So money stewardship is in fact a value that everyone should have. We know that in the Western world, and not only in the Western world, debts are skyrocketing and people are always, overborrowed, overstretched. I think even in Australia, most people spend more than what they earn. And we're always running behind, trying to remortgage, revalue our homes or redraw facilities. And there's good debt and bad debt. I mean, mortgages are understandable, but, personal loans and high interest credit cards are a big no-no because we spend before we earn. We don't have that ability to delay gratification. Before COVID, we pretty much spent whatever we wanted. Now that it's a bit tightened up and inflation has come in, we think differently. But we have a responsibility to steward our money. God expects us to understand the money and to steward it well, to administer well. And that is, in terms of priority, we are to prioritize His kingdom first. We are responsible for 100%, not just 10% like the tithe. We are responsible for every cent that comes in our bank account.
We're taking calls on 1-800-316-316. Let's take a call from Bill. Bill, we've just got to hold off on that call for a few moments. We'll come back to that call. You were about to add something to your point there. What were you about to say, Natanael?
Yeah, I was, people believe in, that tithing is a good principle and it is biblical. And I think, everyone should start at least there. Tithing is a godly principle that has been in the Old Testament and it works. The Jews, why are the Jews disproportionately more wealthy than the rest of the world is because they apply biblical principles. And biblical principles have built in them blessings and curses. So yes, if you honor God with the first fruit of everything that you earn, you will be blessed, whether you're a Christian or not. God will honor that because it's a godly principle that has been set in motion when he created the world. So when you are generous, you will receive from God. God will bless you. He said, you are cursed if you don't, you are blessed if you do. So basically, in Malachi, it clarifies this, and I can read that passage unless we're taking the call now.
Let's take the call now, and we'll come back and talk some more. But Joseph is in Cairns, North Queensland. Hi, Joseph. Welcome along.
Hi, how are you, my friend?
Good, Joseph. What are your thoughts?
Actually, I'm listening about money in all this. What is this? Whoever is a doctor or pastor, he was talking about something about the money is not exist. Why is the money is not exist? Why we have to work if it's not money exist? That's what I don't understand. Because we're working for about 45, 50 hours, sweating our how they say, guts to go make money, and on the end that he says it's not going to exist because sometimes money not valued. They go up and down. Of course, I understand it, but that's why I'm just want to get my answer. Why is the money not exist? That's what I don't understand.
Good on you, Joseph, because I suspect there's a little bit of confusion too for a lot of people. And I said early on, perhaps we've not been exposed to going a little deeper into the spirituality of money in earlier times. Yeah. And for listeners who might be just joining us, yes, the thought that there is cash money, there's digital money, and there's a spiritual dimension to the money. Natanael, your thoughts for Joseph?
Yeah, so monetary policy is a strange thing. The government controls this monetary policy in every nation, and the value of money goes up and down based on certain economic factors. Sometimes they can be controlled, and sometimes they cannot be controlled. That's why money physically, you have them physically, but in reality, they are spiritual. They are non-tangible assets per se, even though they're cash at hand. In that, the value of money, you cannot lock in. That's why I'm saying it is spiritual. You cannot lock in a value of money. GFC came around and, shares and property that was worth so much lost 30, 40, 50% overnight. Depression comes in, bad news comes in. It just shows that even though you have, let's say, $1 million saved up, its value could be as little as 500,000 because it has been devalued. So, yes, you still have the physical money, but the value is not physical. The value is spiritual. So I hope that this makes sense now.
So we're into a different dimension here, and not a different one so far as it's completely detached, because it is attached to the physical sense of having cash in your hand, or the digital sense of having a number on your computer screen. I'm interested, though, because Joseph is indicating here his confusion about this. I wonder if we were talking about a scenario that if we're a Christian believer and we're working for a small business and things are getting tighter and people are not spending as much money in the lead up to Christmas because everything's rising, and I'm the staff member that gets put off, and I'm feeling that tangible bite that comes because I'm now no longer employed. So, Natanael, given a scenario like that, I'm on my knees before God and yes, I'm pouring out my heart to Him. I might even have an emotional reaction. I might be even angry about what has happened. How do I process this, knowing that God is my provider and that maybe looking for Him to open another door that I might not be aware of, but because someone else has been working and being a steward with their money, that opportunities might open? How do you relate to that sort of practical scenario?
I think at some stage in life, we will all go through a process where we won't have enough. The invitation of God is, he said, I mean, this is in regards to tithe, but it works in regards to everything. In Malachi 3, verse 10, bring the full tithe into the storehouse so that there will be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord of hosts. God allows tests in our lives so we can test him. He wants to prove himself to us. He allows us to go through deep valleys so he can prove that he is the provider to us. There has to come a time in our life when we trust in God, when we fully trust in God. You know, the thing is, there's two great abilities that we have to learn to master here on earth. The first one is the ability of letting go of what we can actually do, and the ability of allowing God. The ability of letting go and the ability of letting God. We are so much of what we can do and so little of who God is. So we look always for solutions within us. I need another job. I need more money. I need this. I need that. How can I make this? Jesus gave up himself he poured himself into emptiness to gain the whole world, to gain resurrection and life. So no matter how much we try to save our lives, we will lose it. I know people during COVID who went and bought farms to become self-sufficient and did all sorts of things to save their own lives and their back. And Jesus said, if you want to save your life, you lose it. But if you lose your life for me, you will save it. In fact, that was the central message of Jesus 6 times in the Gospels. This is the most that Jesus preached. Life is not about me and my bank account. Life is not about me and my daily needs. Life is about Christ in me. Life is about others. If I serve Christ and I serve others, Christ will take care of me. It's a byproduct. My bank account will change as a product, as a ripple effect of his provision for me.
And that, I imagine, is one of the foundations of what it is, whether you have a little or a lot, what it is to live a life of faith in Christ. I want to thank Joseph in Cairns for raising that and bringing some level of clarity. And my encouragement is, if you're still unclear on some of those things, listen back to the first segment of our conversation when you get the podcast a little later on this afternoon. Dr. Natanael Costea is our guest. We'll continue our conversation after Vision National News. Natanael leads Menorah Church in Perth, and NatanaelCostea.com is his website to connect. We're back with more after Vision National News. Wonderful to have you with us on this Wednesday edition of 2020. And if you're just joining our conversation now, joining into a fascinating discussion about our love affair with money. Money, one of the most discussed topics in our daily life. We talk about a lot on 2020. Our understanding of money and our relationship with it can influence our quality of life. As Christians, we're more acutely aware of some of the deeper aspects of how we relate to our money. We tend to either love it, hate it, or fear it. We're challenged every day with spending, with investments, negotiations, saving, budgeting, and giving. We also have a private way of dealing with money, and we carefully guard our way. Our conversation today is asking ourselves some deeper questions about our relationship with money. Our special guest is Dr. Natanael Costea. He's a pastor, a strategist, a futurist, and an emotional intelligence coach. He leads Menorah Church in Perth. Natanael, will invite listeners to join into our conversation. Our talkback line is open, 1-800-316-316. Let us know if this is new to you. Let us know if there's something confusing about the way we're talking about money. You might have a question, a comment, even a critique. 1800 316 316. And Natanael, I know listeners can hear a accent when you are speaking, and it's a Romanian accent. But there's something deeper too into the things that have shaped you, and that is a Jewish heritage. Give us some insights here into the way you're shaped in the way that you think about these things, and how even a Jewish heritage might have shaped the way you think about money.
Okay, I'll give you some Jewish wisdom here, but you got to take your Western hat off for a while. It's actually harder to unlearn than to learn new things. So bear with me. This might change your paradigm a little bit. So this is, if you want to tap into a Jewish mindset, I'll give you some pointers here. Number one, we know that everything all comes from God and belongs to God. You know, Psalm 89:11 says, the heavens are yours, the earth is yours, everything in the world is yours. You created it all. So this is fundamental to the Jewish belief. It should be fundamental to the Christian belief, and I believe it is, but not in a practical sense every day. So we know that everything comes from God, all belongs to God. Now, having said that, there's an aspect which we understand probably on a deeper level, and that is God created every single person in the world. Every human being is God's creation. Every human being is God's child, whether they recognize it or not. So when I relate to anybody in the world, I have to relate to him as a brother or sister, because God is our Father. So it's not just as a client or a service provider or a patient or a rep or whatever you want to call the other person. He and she is a child of God, and I must relate to that person as he or she is my brother and sister. So in the same context, that if God created us all and God is our Father, we are all brothers and sisters. That means I am responsible for what goes on in the world and how I treat others as well. I am responsible for the money and everything I receive from God. I am responsible for my well-being, for my spiritual being. I'm responsible to feed my spirit. I'm responsible for my soul, for my mind, my will and emotions. I am responsible for what I put in my mind. I'm responsible for how I manage my emotions. Are they a gauge or a guide in my life? They should gauge where I am. They shouldn't guide me. My emotions should report to me, not me to them. That means impulsive buying, impulsive rush decisions should not be part of my life, because I can choose to have the mind of Christ. I can tap into the mind of Christ. He's willing to share his mind with me. Then my physical aspect is also governed by God, because God is the creator. He knows what I should feed myself with. So that whole concept that I should exercise. So taking care of my spirit, my soul, and my body is absolutely vital in a Jewish mindset. Then, when it comes to money, number 3, I am responsible to steward everything God gives me, including money. That means, first of all, that if I tithe, if I put 10% aside, because that is how the Old Testament Bible encourages us to do, that was before the law, it's actually very good to me, because that means I work on 90% commission. There's no other business or employer in the world that lets me work on 90% commission. So to give 10% is nothing, really. It's a baseline, and I know that it pours the blessings of God. So the blessing and the curse is in the command of God. It's already inbuilt. If I tithe my first fruits, then I know that I will be blessed. I'm not doing it because I'm blessed, but it's already there. Now, people who don't follow God, even non-Christians, even non-Jewish followers, Judaic Jews, they prosper because they use this law, and it does work. You know, God will bless you. So most Jews will practice this 10%. They will give God, they'll go to charity 10% of their income before they spend anything else. Not at the end of the month. The first thing at the beginning of the month, they do that, and it works. In the kingdom, it's different. In kingdom, we should give everything. So it's people, whoever argues with tithe, and I'm not saying that tithe is the best thing in the world. It is biblical, but in the kingdom, we should give everything. So it's a lot more. But those people who don't tithe, they will have arguments about tithing. So whoever questions this is those people who don't do it.
Yes, those churches, some will have different practices, different ways to think about tithing. As you say, though, as an Old Testament principle, the law of tithing still carries over in the sense of the blessing of God that comes to those who are giving of the first fruits. And the New Testament understanding that all things are under God's ownership, and we're actually obligated then to be more generous than the tithe. Oftentimes on this program, we'll have the thought that a tithe might be a starting point, and look for opportunities to be even more generous beyond that. Look, our talkback line is open, 1-800-316-316. You might have your own thought to offer, a comment, even a criticism. One caller called through, Natanael, and it's an interesting question. I'll just try and make some sense of it. If a Christian isn't a citizen, what scriptures make them obligated to the country they're staying in? Now, just to interpret that, what I'm thinking here is that if someone is a migrant to Australia, and we have our laws, and even the church might have its own policy on how you give, obligations here. What are your thoughts?
You create your own reality. It's as simple as that. If you want to find every positive about giving, you will find everything about giving. If you want to find things that you shouldn't give, then you create your own reality. So, if you want to pay the taxes, you pay the taxes. And if you don't want to pay the taxes, you'll find every argument not to pay the taxes.
I imagine.
I was preaching in a church 3-4 weeks ago, and it was an African church. And one of the gentlemen came to me after the service, and he said to me, "Natanael, I've learned something today." I said, "What did you learn?" He said, "I'm going to go and pay my taxes."
We'll often make a reference, won't we, to Romans chapter 13. And I'll say that's God's tax policy. Go and deal with that. It's a little bit to digest. But there is a thought here, and relating back to this listener question about being not a citizen, but an obligation to a nation. You have a biblical tax policy in Romans 13. You have this obligation to God, who is the transcendent God. And no matter what nationality you might come from, you've got this appreciation of God and who He is and what His wisdom is around money, and how then that might relate to the nation that you live in. Any thoughts here about, God being first?
Well, everything comes back to when we are aligned with God, God will align everything else in our lives. The mother duck doesn't line up all its ducks and then goes on a lake and says, "Okay, only if you're lined up, then we go in." She goes on the lake, and everybody, all the ducklings, just line up after her. When we align with God, everything in our life will get aligned, our finances too. It's like tithing. Tithing is not for God. God doesn't need our tithing. He doesn't need 10% of everything He has already. It's like, why would He need 10%? Tithing is not for God. Tithing is for us. Because when we give the first fruit, that means in the back of our mind, the first thing that we need to do is to honor God. So we honor God first. He puts the kingdom first in terms of priorities in our lives and generosity. And out of that appreciation, we live our life. Out of the platform of gratitude, we live our life. Otherwise, we become egocentric, and it's all about us. So tithing is not for God. It's for us.
I like your illustration about the ducks. leads me to think of other birds that fly in formation. And when
That's
they're
right.
flying in formation, they can fly so much further. And there is protection in the formation, everything about it. The ease of travelling with the flock because they're travelling in formation. And there is a sense here, and I'll get your perspective around being part of church life, because we could be flying on our own and trying to get our money ideals together. But when we're flying in formation with what is being led from the pulpit in our local church, there's something special about that, because together we can achieve so much more than we could if we're just only one individual.
That's right. That's another thing. Part of the Jewish roots is the legacy. We build legacy with people. Everything is relational in life. The church is relational. It's fellowship. Everything is relational. You know, God says to Joshua, you and all these people get ready to cross into the promised land. It wasn't just you alone. There's nothing with you alone. It's you and all these people. I think we need to get beyond ourselves and just keep maybe write somewhere on the mirror, you and all the people that God has given you in your circle. It's never about you. If it's only about you, you will suffer. It'll hurt you. Every time you look at your bank account, everything will hurt you. You know, to Joshua, God says, I'm giving you this land to give to the people of Israel. So God is giving you money to give. He's not giving you money to keep. I
That's
think
inspirational.
we're actually,
Yep.
we are distributors of God's wealth. We are stewards of something we don't own. But we get to vote where the dollar goes. The purpose of wealth is distribution. The purpose of wealth is not to keep. The purpose of wealth is to distribute it with priorities of the kingdom in our mind. You know, it's not about us. And we also need to think legacy, Neil. It's bigger than us. We should not spend our children's inheritance. We should build legacy for generations to come. We should teach our children. That's why the Jews never sell homes. They never sell property. Very rarely you will see a Jewish house being sold, because they build wealth for generations to come. They think across generations. In the Western mindset, you know, we buy those T-shirts, spending my children's inheritance, with a $300,000 caravan and four-wheel drive around Australia. That's an absolute shame. We can't think that way. You know, we should build legacy. We should build for generations to come. We should take people on a journey which is far greater than us, a journey which I cannot accomplish on my own, a journey when I need you and I and the fabric of society to travel with, and especially the community of believers.
So when Jesus says, I'm building my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it, it's not a matter of money in the physical sense, because the money will follow the spirituality of the people who are followers of Christ, who are pursuing a great commission to disciple those in every nation. Powerful concept there, and I might have taken us off on a bit of a tangent, so I'll just come back to a question from a listener who says, what scriptures apply to Christians who want to work for no money? In other words, they're volunteers. Natanael, for volunteers, that in itself takes the actual cash in hand out of the equation, but there's, in some sense here, there's still a currency, and if you're serving the Lord, I imagine this is that spiritual currency we're talking about too, for people who will be volunteering their time in the work of the kingdom, or in whatever charity they might be volunteering in.
Well, most of the Christian work that is done out there is non-paid work. There's far more non-paid work than paid work that is done. People have a call on their life to do this. They're touched by God to serve others. Look, we've done 17 years of mission, my wife and I. We would work for 6 months in Australia and travel for 6 months and bless other people. We flew on our own funds. We spent a lot of our money. A lot of the time, more than half of our income went into blessing other nations. It's an absolute joy and privilege for those people who understand the heart of God to serve others. I think this is amazing. This is beautiful. That's why Christianity is where it is today. That's why missions are where they are today, because people put their lives on the altar every day to serve God's creation, other human being. And let me tell you something. The Father is absolutely delighted. You know, if you do me, let's say, if you give me a chocolate, I am happy. But if you give my son Isaac a chocolate, I am happier. When you honor God, God is happy. But when you serve God's children, other people, let me tell you something, God is happier. When you take care of God's creation, God is very, very pleased with you. It's an absolute honor and privilege to do that, especially to those who understand that. Serving others is the most noble call that we have as human beings, because this means we are taking care of God's own children, and we are co-working with God to bless his children. I mean, we are working with the Father to serve his children. This is the greatest and noblest call of humanity.
Natanael, time's running out, and perhaps touching on something here, and it almost might become something of insight into your marriage as well. If we're talking about money and the things that drive us emotionally here, whether it's spending or investing, as we mentioned, negotiating a deal, saving money, budgeting, giving. Your thoughts here on the things that drive us emotionally and how that affects even things like our marriage.
Oh, deeply affects every aspect of our life, because we are emotional beings, and spending, investing, all this negotiating, saving, budgeting. We don't invest enough time into educating ourselves into finances. We in fact we avoid doing that, because then we become responsible. We would rather not know what to do and just deal with life as it comes. But then pressures come in the family life, children life. There's more relationships break down due to money than affairs, than adultery. So it's the biggest cause of distress in the family, not having enough money, or somebody spending, or somebody gambling, or somebody drinking, or addiction creeping in. And even in Christian families, money is a massive, massive problem that separates people, that causes distress and pressure on the marriage. But we have all the tools, all the wisdom. I mean, if we don't have it as Christians, who are going to have it? I mean, we have the Bible, we have the Spirit of God, we have the mind of Christ that we can tap into. We have the Jewish Bible, we have the Christian Bible, we have all the wisdom of the world. If we choose to apply the principles of that, we should be the best. We should be the best at administering and stewarding money, better than the Jews, really. We have more than the Jews. We have the mind of Christ. So, yes, we, as husbands, as wives, as family people, we should educate ourselves from a biblical perspective on how to deal with finances. Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Natanael Costea has been our guest over this past hour, and words of wisdom worth listening again. And I'll point listeners to listen to the 2020 podcast of this conversation once again, and there's no doubt someone in your family or in your friendship circle that really needs to hear something that takes you to a different dimension, a spiritual dimension around money and dealing with this issue of a love affair with money. Tremendous wisdom from Dr. Natanael Costea, who leads Menorah Church in Perth, strategist, futurist, emotional intelligence coach. There's a number of books too that Natanael has written. Our first conversation some time back was on 19 COVID lessons the church cannot ignore. There's another book he's written called 40 Years and 40 Days, a practical discipleship book he wrote in 40 days starting on his 40th birthday. And then there's another one called The Most Precious Gift, a book for those seeking a first encounter with God. How do you connect with Dr. Natanael Costea? The website natanaelcostea.com, Natanael Costea, Costea.com. There's also the Menorah Church website, menorah.church. Natanael, great wisdom. Thanks so much for sharing it with listeners today on 2020.
It was an absolute privilege, Neil, always.